Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. This is Leah Dixon in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, and I'm coming to you with my regular Wednesday morning Facebook Live. So if you're interested in stamping, learning new stamping techniques, and seeing new product, make sure you join me every Wednesday at 9 a.m. or thereabouts, depending on the mornings. Today we had another late start, so getting kids off a little bit later than usual to school today, but here I am, and what I have to show you today is the Happy Birthday to You free stamp set. So this is one of the stamps that comes as part of the celebration offering. So for every $60 that you spend in any of our catalogs, you actually earn free items, and so this is one of the possible choices. And the reason I'm highlighting this particular item this week is because February 10th, which I believe is coming up pretty quick here, I think it's this Sunday, maybe this Monday, is the last day that you have to order the February paper pumpkin, which should arrive at your home by February 16th, and it actually coordinates with this stamp set. So kind of cool. Good morning, Janice. You can actually order yourself a 3-month subscription to the paper pumpkin and then get a free item, and you can make this your free item, and then it coordinates with your February paper pumpkin. So while we're waiting for paper pumpkin to arrive, I thought I'd just play around with the stamp set and see what I can create. So earlier in the week, I just did some really simple stamping. I just stamped the cake, stamped Celebrate, and then colored it in with some felt pens, added some rhinestones, added some wing castella to make my cake shine a little bit. Today I'm going to do almost the same card, but I'm going to kind of like step it up. So maybe you have a bit more than just one ink and some felt pens. So let's see what we can do with this kind of same layout, but just going that one step further. So I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I'm actually going to bring in a piece of watercolor paper. Oh, I know, Janice, this is such a beautiful cake. I've really been enjoying playing with it. So I'm bringing in a piece of watercolor paper. This is our Fluid 100. It's a really nice watercolor paper. There you go. You can see that on there. There's some texture to it, but it's a fine enough texture that the way it watercolors is just really beautiful. Watercoloring is one of my favorites for backgrounds. And so I'm going to show you kind of how I do that. So first job always when you're watercoloring is make sure you have at least one tissue on hand. And then I like to watercolor using re-inkers and my aqua painter. You did get the dies. Oh, thank you for reminding me, Janice. I don't have them yet, but there's a new product offering that just became available yesterday or the day before. Anyways, it's available now, and it is some coordinating papers and dies, and there actually is a die set that coordinates with this cake. I do not have it yet, so you'll be having to watch me fussy cut today, unfortunately. So I'm just going to peek in here and see what re-inkers I have that would create a nice background for this card. And I'm thinking that we're going to go with, I think we're going to go with Balmy Blue. I don't want a background that's going to kind of be too abrasive. So I'm going to use the Balmy Blue, and I'm going to put just a single drop of Balmy Blue onto an acrylic block. Really don't need a ton of color here when we're doing this. Now I do want to put some words on my background because I have this Celebrate here that I wanted on my card. If I try to watercolor this, I could stamp the image afterwards, and that would work, but you have to really make sure that your background is dry to do that. So recently I found a new way to be able to stamp words on our page and still get that really crisp look and not have to worry about my image being too dry, and that is that I've been going in and I have been embossing my words beforehand. So I've done this a few times now, and it just really works so beautifully. So I'm going to grab my Celebrate stamp here. So that's the Celebrate image. And I'm going to get some Versamark. And so Versamark is basically a watermark or clear ink stamp pad. going to ink up my words. Now for this one, I kind of think I want it a little bit lower. There we go. So I'm going to stamp my words, and then I'm going to get some white embossing powder, and I'm going to just sprinkle that over top of the words I just stamped. Now I don't actually want to get my paper all powdery in case I miss here, so I'm just going to pull out a piece of scrap paper and dump off the excess as much as I can back into the bucket. Just give that a little flick to get the extras off, and I'll set that to the side. Pour that back in. There we go. All right, so fairly mess-free using the embossing powder, especially if you remember to put the lid back on the embossing powder when you're done. If you forget that part, you end up spraying embossing powder everywhere on this next step, which is to grab my heat tool. Got to plug that in. I always unplug my heat tool when I'm not using it, just safety. So I'm going to grab my heat tool and I'm going to start heating this. So it's going to get a little bit loud. Sorry, guys. You can start to see it changing now. So you'll notice that I just heated the back of the paper as well there. That was just because when I was heating the front, it started to curl. And so by heating the back, I was able to kind of like uncurl it. So there we go, because we want to have this as flat as possible so we don't end up with any pooling when we go to do our watercolor. So we can't see that Celebrate on there. That's okay. We've got an aqua painter, and so this is just like a piece here. It untwists. You can fill up the bottom with water, and then you put it back together and you've got like an always wet watercolor brush. So the first thing I do when I watercolor backgrounds is I get my page wet. So I get my water in here and I kind of paint wherever it is I'm going to want my ink to go. And so come in. And it's pretty, you know, messy and not really like structured. And I'm even painting right over top of that word that I embossed. Now I'm going to come in here and pick up some color. And as soon as I put this down, you'll see it just really vibrant color. And I can pick some more up and then kind of spread that around. Okay. And I love how it got so dark around the word Celebrate, and that white just pops off the page now. All right. So if I wanted a bit darker color over here, I could come in and bring in some more blue, or I can pull some of this blue over. I do really want to keep it quite dark around that word, and I'm not so concerned about the color being dark on this side because I'm going to be putting my cake over here anyways. So there we have our pattern. Now, I am actually going to grab another little dot here of ink because I'm going to do just a little bit of splatter and put in some darker spots of blue on here. So I'm going to move this card out of the way. Anything I don't want to get blue on, I'm going to move out of the way. I'm going to pick up just a little bit of blue, and it's slightly darker. I'm going to take the lid of my aqua painter and I'm going to tap. Oh, I don't have enough color there. There we go. That's working. So I'm going to tap this blue ink. There we go. And it's just creating a bit of a splatter all over my background. I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, so I've got that, and you don't want to have anything around your card. Like I've got little blue ink spots everywhere now. It's a pretty messy process to do that, but it just adds a little bit of interest to the card. All right, so then I've just squeeze this and run it until the water coming out of it is clear, and I can put that away. And then my final cleanup to get rid of all my watercolor stuff is just to wipe my block clean with a tissue. And there you go. It's pretty easy watercoloring with very little mess. So I'm going to put this off to the side to dry while we do the rest of our card. And then if we have to, I will use a heating tool to dry the rest of it, but hopefully it will be dry by the time we're done. All right, so just kind of wipe away any water spots that might be here. Can feel a little bit of embossing powder too. All right. Now I'm going to take just a piece of Whisper white paper. This was just like an extra that I had chopped off from something else. And I'm going to bring in this gorgeous birthday cake stamp and some black Memento ink. There we go. So I am changing up the color scheme a little bit from the original card. Oh yeah, I can bring that back in as well and show you. So that was the original card that I created, just super simple stamping. And so we've increased the difficulty level a little bit by doing that watercolor background. So that's really just 2 extra tools, though. It's the aqua painter and and the watercolor paper, because I used a re-inker, but you can actually still just use your felt pens. If you just take a felt pen and scribble on an acrylic block, it puts ink onto that block, and then you can lift that ink up with your aqua painter. So you don't even need to actually have re-inkers. Just having the felt pens is good enough. All right, so here we are. I am going to use blends today to color this. I used felt pens when I colored this one originally, but today I'm going to use the blends because I cannot find my Purple Posy felt pen right now. So if you are aware of everything that's gone on with Purple Posy, it's a color that we haven't had available to us in the inks, but I've been finding ways around that. So I do have the felt pen somewhere, and then I've got my blends as well. So as usual, I'm going to come in and start with my blends using the darker color, and I'm actually using the fine tip of my darker blend. And I'm just coloring in spots that I think on our flower. I'm not very good at this, getting like all the right shading and everything, but I'm coming in and coloring the spots that I think would just be a little bit darker on our flower. Okay, so right there, definitely all these little highlighted parts, and then coming in like this. I really should take a class on like how to do proper shading, because I know it's like that idea of like which way is the light coming from and all of that. So I should probably actually take a class and learn that a bit better, and then I can teach you guys. All right, get in there. All right, so those are all the parts that I'm going to do darker, and then I'm going to come in with the broader tip on our lighter one, and you can see it's much more pink. And I'm going to color over the whole thing, even the parts that I colored with the dark one. I'm going to color over them, and that's what's going to allow that blending to happen. Okay, here we go. So sorry if you're making comments right now. I actually can't see my screen. I'm down in a little bit closer so that I can get this coloring done. All right. So there you have it. Our flowers are done. Now I'm going to go back and grab that dark one again, and all these little buds, we'll do those in the darker one. Let them really pop. Okay, so with that done, I can move that stamp out of the way. All right, I'm going to grab our Old Olive, and again, start with the fine tip of my darker pen, and I'm going to go in, and for this one, I'm going to do like all the little highlight lines that they've shown us here, and a little bit more. And just typically on one side of the leaf is where I'm going to do that a little bit more. All right, a few more to go. Okay, I think I got them all. So now I'm going to take the broader end of my light Old Olive and color those all in. And then that'll all just blend together. So if you really want to blend this, you can, go over it multiple times and use the fine tip and really kind of mix them together. These pens are alcohol based though, so they do bleed. So I'm just a bit concerned about putting too much ink into such small spaces. So I'm just gonna let the fact that they're two shades of the same color be enough blending. All right, so that is done. I'm gonna move those out of the way. And I'm going to bring in some Smoky Slate. And for this one, I was going to use the dark, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm just going to use the fine tip and really do a lot of passes over the spots that I want highlighted using the light Smoky Slate, but just really, putting a lot into that. All right, so these are the spots that I really want shaded in, and I'm also going to come in here quite a few passes. There we go. And then I'm going to flip over to the broader tip and just be really fast and keep it light. There we go. And so you can see that you can even do the shading and the blending with one shade of the pens just by kind of doing more passes in one spot and really allowing that to darken it. So there, we didn't even have to use two shades. All right. Yeah, I know it does change color when it dries on the page. It's kind of nice. Okay, and now for the centers of our flower, I'm actually not even going to color them. I'm going to let kind of like the champagne-y color of my Wink of Stella come on in, and I'm just going to color them using the Wink of Stella. So when it dries sparkly still, but it also doesn't dry clear. It dries with like a champagne tone to it. And so I'm going to use that as the color for the center of these three flowers. Okay. I don't know if you can see it on here, but let's see if I can get that in there. So that cake is all Wink of Stella, and so it's got that little bit of a champagne color to it. So that's what I've done to the centers of our flowers on this other card. Okay, so that is our cake all colored in. Now for the hard part, because I don't have my dies yet, we are going to fussy cut this. That's going to give us a little bit of time to let our background dry as well. But definitely having the dies would speed this process up. And with the new dies that we've got, they actually cut a lot closer to the image than some of our older dies ever did. So it's actually quite nice. Okay, so most of the cake's actually pretty easy. It's just when you get up around the flowers that it gets a little bit finicky. We don't have to be super careful though, because we are just doing kind of that looser watercolor look anyways. And we've got that background that's a little bit like of a visual distraction as well, so that all of our little cuttings and everything don't have to be super perfect. So like here with these berries, I'm just going to go straight around them. I'm not going to try and get in there and cut out each berry. That'll just make the image itself a little bit flimsy. And then we can take a look at it on the background. If it seems too stark having that white outline around the berries, we can come in and actually just do a little bit of watercoloring on this paper. It's not the ideal paper to watercolor on, but for such a small space, it's definitely doable. So we'll take a look at it and see if that's something that we need to do. All right, so I just cut off a big chunk of this so that I've got a smaller piece to work with. To make it a bit easier. Okay, having these little paper snips for doing this kind of fussy cutting is super helpful as well. If you're trying to do fussy cutting with like giant scissors or scissors that aren't super sharp, you're going to find that you're getting a lot more like tearing and a lot more frustrated with like getting into the small spaces. Okay, you'll also notice that it's the paper that I'm moving, not my hand. I'm slowly closing these scissors as I move the paper through them, but it's the paper that is doing all of the moving. There we go. That was a little tip that I learned years and years ago, probably 20 years ago, and man, has it helped me with fussy cutting. All right, almost done. Thank you for your patience. Oh, I know the cake stand die is super cute. Yeah, I have to get my order placed soon. I actually think this weekend I will be putting in an order. I have a card class on Friday night, and if you're local and want to come, I do still have 2 spots available in it. It's a painted poppies class, and so all of our cards are going to be using the painted poppies and the peaceful moments words. Still my favorite set in the whole catalog. So that's on Friday night, and I do still have 2 spots available if you want to join us. And then, yeah, after that class, I'm going to be placing an order. Throw those dies on there and a few other fun things. All right, there we go. So we have our cake cut out. Oh, I dropped a scrap on that card. There we go. Now, we're going to grab that watercolor background and see how we're doing, how dry it is. So it's not quite dry yet. So I might grab that heat gun. And I'm just looking at this. Because of where I've got it, it's actually not too visible. But I'm actually just going to grab my light balmy blue pen. And just those few little spots that I didn't get, I am going to just throw the blue in. Just make it stand out a little bit less. All right, there we go. So with that light balmy blue colored in on there, we'll be able to put that down, and it just, like, you can't even tell that we didn't cut it out perfectly. All right, I might actually come around the edges as well, because just like you're going to find, even if you do get the dies, it's not going to come in right to your black line. Oh, I'm getting a reminder for something interesting. All right, so because that die is not going to come in all the way, this is something else you could do, is either watercolor or grab a felt pen or grab a blend and just very lightly go over those edges so that we don't have that little white seam between our image and our background. There we go. And even up in here. So this is one of those little extra details that probably you could not do and nobody's going to notice, but I'm feeling just a little bit like it needs to be done today. One of those days. Okay, so I'm going to grab the heat tool again and just dry that up a bit. Now, when you're using a heat tool to dry your watercolor, you do really want to watch that you're not warping your paper. So I'm going to kind of like dry the front a bit, then dry the back a bit, and try and keep it from warping. So sorry for the noise again. All right, so that is dry. It's dry enough for what we're going to be going to do. Good morning, Val. Definitely dry enough for what we're going to be doing because we're just kind of adhering things to this now. If you were going to be doing any more stamping on this, I would definitely say it's not dry enough. I would definitely recommend letting it dry, you know, for a longer time, even maybe doing all your watercoloring one day and then coming back the next day. Because if you were to try to stamp on here, like if you didn't want to do the embossing, any dampness in here is really going to take that ink and spread it. All right, so with that done, I am going to put this onto a piece of Seaside spray. And you can see, even though it was the balmy blue ink that I used here, where it went on super dark and then where it got light, this super dark balmy blue kind of ties in with that Seaside spray, and it just has really nice tone to it. So we're going to attach this. You can use liquid glue, but my personal preference when I'm attaching watercolor paper to anything is to get in there and use some heavy duty adhesive. And so I use the tear and tape. And I just find that just because there's like that little bit of texture to this paper, that putting the tear and tape on really gets into all those little grooves and makes it so that this really sticks. And I'm not shy with using this stuff. I just load it on. Nothing worse than sending somebody a card and having it fall apart in the mail. Just, yeah. Not very good. So I really try and use heavy duty adhesives so that that doesn't happen. Okay, and then the trick to this tear and tape is to make sure that the end where that you're starting to peel the backing off of is really strongly adhered to your paper before you try and get your fingernail in there to peel off the edge. All right, and then this is my downfall, is lining things up, so I'm going to be really careful here before I begin. Make sure all those edges look even before I put that down. All right, not bad. We can get rid of those. There you have it. Okay, so now we've got our cake to put on here, and this Swing Castella dries pretty quickly. That's dry, so I'm going to flip that over. And I'm still using up supplies off my desk, so I've got just the border here from my mini dimensionals, and I'm just going to cut that up to create the pieces I need to adhere this. So I'm going to put one of these smaller pieces down in the actual base of the cake stand. I'm going to put definitely one up in that first bundle of flowers, one over there, and then one down in this corner. So just using 4, they're kind of randomly placed, but they're going to hold that cake up nicely. And peel those backings off. So the coloring that I did today, I did use the blends, but of course you could use felt pens, you could use watercolor pencil crayons, really anything that you have on hand to color in these flowers. It's such an easy set to add some interest to. So I've put that on with dimensionals. Now I'm going to grab some of the ribbon from the Poppy Suite. And so this is like the white seam binding. I just love this stuff. So I'm going to start right here at my cake stand base and leave like a little bit of a tail here so that I can use that later to tie a bow. And then I'm going to wrap all the way around, come back, and then leave another tail before I snip that off. And then I'm going to tie a knot. And as best as I can, I'm going to try and get that knot right on top of the cake stand base. If it doesn't land there perfectly, we can always adjust this afterwards by just slightly bending our cardstock and moving this strip of ribbon around. That actually worked out pretty well. I am going to flip this though, because I've got it all twisted. I'd rather have the twist on the back side of the card. There we go. Oh, now that moved it over. Okay. Oh, come on, cooperate. All right. Show this ribbon who's in charge. All right. Okay, so now we have that straight. I do have a twist on the back. That's okay. It's going to get hidden when we put this card down. I've got this knot right here on top of the base. And now I'm going to do my bunny ears and create a little bow here. Now, if I'd used that gorgeous die for this base, I might not be covering it up, but the stamped image is just a little bit boring. So as long as we can still see that there's a cake stand here, people don't need to see the whole image clearly. All right. Oh, come on. So, as with any ribbon, you just kind of have to fiddle with it. Holding the center knot often helps for being able to adjust the sizes of the bows and also getting the bow to sit in the direction you want it to be in. Okay, and tighten that up one last time. Fluff that out, although if you're going to mail it, these bows tend to get flattened out again anyways, but I always like them to start fluffy. There we have it. And then I'm going to trim up the edges just in case they got frayed and all that work, and so that they're going to stay on my card, because if you have your ribbon edges hanging off of your card, then they just get bent when you put them in the envelope. Okay, we are nearly done. I'm going to grab some rhinestones now. And I'm just going to fill in this space a little bit with some rhinestones just to give it a little bit more interest. Use a few different sizes here. And there we go. So just something to balance out the cake. And now I've just got a thick Whisper White cardstock base. Oh, that a child must have helped me make, because this is not very well folded. You know what? That's so off. I'm just going to grab my paper trimmer instead of trying to refold that. I'm going to fold it up and then come in and just cut the edges straight. So this is our little mini paper trimmer. This is a freebie that you get when you, oh, didn't like cutting through 2 pieces of thick paper. There we go. And that's fine. And then we'll just trim up this end. So this is a little freebie that you get when you sign up to be part of my team. You get this little mini paper trimmer. You get an assorted pack of DSP, a free stamp set of your own choice, and $165 worth of product, all for $135, no shipping, no taxes. And so it's a pretty awesome deal to join my team right now. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you as well. I've got more information on my blog and on my Facebook page. So if you want to check that out, or give me a call and I can give you more details as well. All right, so our last step in creating this card, now that we've trimmed up that card base, is to glue this down. Now you could use tear and tape again. You could use snail, but I do find in our humid weather that snail doesn't always stay stuck. So I like to use the liquid glue because that allows me to also kind of fiddle and make sure things are straight. All right, there we go. And so there is kind of our next level up version of the same card. And yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And, you know, I hope after watching me use the aqua painters and see how easy they are to use to create some really fun backgrounds, that you definitely give that a try. And I hope you all have a wonderful Wednesday. I will be back on next Wednesday. This weekend's looking pretty busy, so I don't think I'll get on with any videos, but you never know. Things change rapidly in a house with 5 teenagers. So yeah, I'll see you next Wednesday for sure. And again, this set coordinates with our upcoming paper pumpkin. So with a 3-month subscription, you can get February's paper pumpkin and snag yourself this stamp set for free. So have a great day. Bye.